Here's what nobody tells you about perfectionism. Perfectionism is not the stereotype of a rigid, uptight person who color codes everything. It's an equation that runs quietly in the background of your life. And it says that there is a standard, an expectation. It could be yours, your parents, your cultures, your workplace, or all of the above. And your worth, acceptance, and therefore your very safety depends on how well you meet it. And in day-to-day life, this shows up as internal pressure, worry, avoidance, overworking, burnout, or harsh self-criticism. In part 1, I helped you spot the patterns that don't look like the stereotype of perfectionism. So now in part 2, I'm going to show you how this equation is influencing your life in ways you don't even realize, so that you can start mastering perfectionism instead of being driven by it. When I talk about perfectionism, I'm not talking about neat handwriting or being neurotic about things. At its core, perfectionism is a belief system. It's a way your brain quietly runs this equation that I mentioned in the background. And let's be clear, it's not at the forefront and it's rarely something conscious. This equation I mentioned is a deeply hidden belief that keeps you in a constant state of unease, constant state of motion, or self-punishment. And most of this is internal and not outwardly visible. This unease is also brought about because the perfectionistic belief system keeps you constantly and subtly comparing yourself to an ideal, to the standard, the expectation you need to meet. There's sometimes standards that you've never even said out loud or realized that you actually have. You mentally live in the deficit or the gap between where you are and where you think you should be or need to be. Your mind has also probably tricked you into believing that staying in this state of constant unease and comparison to the ideal is safer than not, because at least it ensures you're always striving towards the standard and therefore you're more likely to meet it. And you treat how well you hit that standard as evidence for whether you're allowed to feel good about yourself. That's why I shared that story in part 1 about my corporate role early in my career, where I watched a colleague share work I would have never dared to submit. And everyone was fine with that work. They moved on and accepted that it was good enough. And like I said in part 1, that's when it hit me. My colleague and I weren't playing the same game. Her brain was mostly asking, is this done? Her attitude was one of, this task is detached from me. I have no emotional attachment to anything else other than seeing progress and seeing us move forward. Mine was asking, is this good enough that it earns my approval? Similar tasks, but a completely different internal rulebook. And here's the crucial element. A lot of that rulebook is not something you sat down and wrote for yourself. It gets handed to you. It gets handed to you by families, schools, workplaces, and in today's world, social media too. All of them often send similar messages. You must get top grades. You must be the reliable one, the one that everyone likes and approves of. You must not make a mistake. You must look a certain way. You must have a certain kind of career or relationship and lifestyle by a certain age. And the irony is that the same social systems that creates this perfectionism is the same one that judges and condemns you for it. You're told to be the best, but if you care too much, you're uptight. You're pushed to over-deliver at work, but if you burn out, you're weak. You're told to curate the perfect life online, but if you feel pressure to do that, you're too sensitive. So you end up in this no-win situation where it's not cool to care, but it's also not safe to not care. And this isn't just an individual thing. Perfectionism has actually been steadily rising across Western society, especially the kind where you feel other people demand perfection from you, which is called socially prescribed perfectionism. And one big study looking at data from 1989 to 2016 found that this socially prescribed perfectionism, the sense that others expect you to be perfect, has increased by 33% in young people over that period of time. And that's pretty huge, my dear friends. So if you feel like everyone is watching you or judging you, that there's no room for mistakes, and you're always slightly behind some invisible standard, you are not imagining it. You're living in a world that has quietly turned the dial up on perfectionism for the last 3 decades, which is why I really want you to hear this. You might not like the word perfectionist because of all the stigma and stereotypes attached to it, and you might not ever want to describe yourself that way, and that's fine, but it would be a mistake to reject understanding perfectionism just because you don't like the label. Because underneath that word is a belief system, a way of measuring yourself that affects almost everything in your life. If you don't know that belief is there, you can't challenge it. Instead, you'll just experience the symptoms in different areas of your life, stuck in a cycle of blaming yourself or thinking you just need to keep pushing harder. Being oblivious to the patterns beneath perfectionism doesn't just keep you stuck in the same loops, striving harder and harder, but it can also put you at risk of various health problems. But we'll talk about that more later. When the perfectionistic belief system is running in the background of your life and you don't even know it or you don't see it, you also can't harness or master perfectionism. Unharnessed, it shapes your thinking, your relationships, your mental health, and the decisions you make every single day in ways that aren't obvious and that you probably don't even want. For a lot of people, it will show up as loops. In life, you'll overthink every decision and you're scared of making mistakes. So you might delay, overanalyze, or unknowingly avoid opportunities. You'll also be risk averse, often not pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone, because if you don't try, you can't fail in a way that feels like a verdict on who you are. Socially, you'll constantly monitor yourself, worrying about how did you come across? Did you say anything wrong? And what are other people thinking? Often replaying conversations you've had or obsessing over small mistakes and constantly scanning for where you fell short. And when you inevitably fall short of your own impossible standards, you turn on yourself with harsh self-criticism or punishment. In work, that looks like working to a level that can be detrimental to your well-being, or adding more detail, staying later than planned, and checking things again and again because good enough feels dangerous and rest feels undeserved. You don't see these patterns. You just feel exhausted, often overwhelmed, and under an unnamed pressure, but you can't stop to consider why. If you'd like support with any of this beyond a single video, I help people with this in my newsletter Excellence and Ease, where I guide the overachievers, the perfectionists, and the burned out to create, lead, and live with more alignment, free from constant pressure, anxiety, and fear. The link to join is in the description below. These patterns I've just described don't stop at your internal world and don't only manifest in work either. Perfectionist patterns can quietly run the show in your relationships too. So that means you might overextend yourself, always being the reliable one, the accommodating one that says yes when you mean no, being the one who always fixes and carries the load. In relationships, you might fear vulnerability and real intimacy because that reveals the areas where you've not yet hit the standard. And this threatens whether you'll still be considered good enough and accepted. You might struggle to set boundaries because the idea of disappointing someone else's expectations feels unbearable. And quite crucially, you keep trying to earn your place in people's lives by being useful, impressive, or low maintenance. If that's you, it's very easy to end up in one-sided friendships, lopsided work mix, or relationships where you never feel fully known because you're always curating the version of you that feels acceptable. I talk more about this in the video, The Perfectionism Relationship Trap, You're Giving More Than You Get, and I'll leave the link to that one in the description below. Hidden perfectionism patterns can also hold you back in other concrete ways. And as I showed you in part 1, in my teens, it didn't just cause stress. It held me back and made me play small in so many ways. On paper, I was doing well. I had good grades and good roles, but I was living beneath my potential because I'd say no to opportunities due to fear about what it would say about me if I tried and failed and couldn't meet these impossible standards. Over time, all of this can add up to a very specific kind of heaviness. Being harsh with yourself, never really feeling satisfied with yourself or with what you've done because The standard in your head is always there, quietly judging everything. And emotionally, that chronic pressure has consequences. The research about this is clear, that perfectionistic thinking is linked with higher levels of anxiety and low mood. If your nervous system is constantly on guard against not being enough, it makes sense that it would struggle to feel calm or safe. This is why I care so much about you understanding the patterns of perfectionism, not the label. Because perfectionism isn't just about how you write emails or how tidy your desk is. It sits right in the middle of your identity, in the rules about what makes you acceptable, safe, and lovable. If you start to master these perfectionist traits, you're not just tweaking a few habits, you're changing the script that runs everything you do, think, and feel, and becoming aware of the ways it gives you hidden advantages too. If you recognize yourself in any of what we've just discussed, your brain might already be jumping in with, oh, I need to fix this. I need to stop being this way. I need to sort myself out. But please try not to go there, because that's literally your perfectionism talking. Avoid trying to become perfect at not being a perfectionist. Realize that you're not dealing with a random collection of bad habits. You're dealing with a protection strategy. And that strategy embedded itself in your beliefs and identity. And at some point, it made perfect sense. If you grew up, studied, or worked in environments where approval, safety, or love felt conditionally tied to how well you performed, of course your brain learned that if I get this right, I'm safe. But if I get this wrong, I'm at risk. That's not being dramatic. That's your nervous system trying to keep you alive, socially, emotionally, and sometimes even practically. So instead of trying to fix it, don't judge it. Try to learn it, understand it, and from that position, you can start to cultivate safety in your inner world and choose differently. I did a video on cultivating safety in your inner world called Build Unshakable Self-Worth Without Outside Approval. And I'll leave the link to that in the description box below for you. To be very clear, I'm not asking you to be proud of your burnout, your harsh self-criticism, or your stress, but I am asking you to be proud of the part of you that cared so much and worked so hard to try to keep you safe. While others judge perfectionism and tell those who live its patterns to just stop, to just chill out and lower your standards, we are over here doing something very different, as you may know already. We're not judging or condemning. We're actually learning how perfectionism works in you at a very personal level, so that instead of perfectionism running your life from the shadows, you can start choosing in the light. You can choose where you want to keep your high standards, where you want to soften them, and where you want to step out of the old rules altogether. And if you want to start building awareness of where perfectionism shows up most for you, I've created a short and free assessment to help with this called the Perfectionist Reality Check. I'll leave the link to that in the video description box below as well. If you take nothing else from this video, I want it to be this. Don't get stuck arguing with the label of perfectionism. The word is not the most pressing thing here. Please don't let it be the reason you ignore the patterns that are already shaping your life. That's why understanding all of this is a powerful starting point, but learning how to master perfectionism is crucial. And that's why in my next video, I'm going to talk about why these perfectionist patterns are not something you have to kill off or shame yourself out of, but something you can learn to master. See you there.